Celines facilitates nutrition education programming and content in Spanish, English, to better meet the needs of our diverse community. She has a bachelor's in science and molecular biology from the University of Central Florida, and she also has a master's in the science of nutrition and dietetics. I like to follow Hebni Nutrition on Facebook. They do lots of live cooking demonstrations. If you're out there on social media, follow Hebni Nutrition. And Celines, it is, I'm so glad you're here and you have the platform.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm happy to be here. I love every time you guys invite us. I love it. It's always such a great group to present to. And like she was just saying, if you could follow us on Facebook or Instagram, please do so. We do lives every Wednesday at 11 a.m. and they stay on there. But I also recommend it for people who do have clients, like refer your clients to follow us because you're giving them like extra content and education. And that's like what we're there for, to support all of our fellow nutrition educators and health educators and health coaches to be able to provide as much content as possible. And at least, it's like verified from a reliable source. You're not just sending them to like Google random stuff. So please do so. And we actually see the one that we had yesterday. That was mine. And we're working on food preservation right now, because if you guys don't know, it's actually National Food Waste Reduction Week. And so we're trying to get people to waste less food. And so we're teaching how to preserve food easy and quickly in your home. So take a look at that if you're interested. And we have some free workshops online coming up if you're interested in those also. And I'm going to quickly share my screen with you guys so we can get started. Here we go. So like Rhonda said, my name is Celines Martinez. I am a registered dietitian at Ebony Nutrition. And if you guys are not familiar with us, we were founded in 1985 by registered dietitians, three of them all three are African-American. And, African-American dietitians make up less than 3%. It's like 2.4% of the registered dietetics professionals in this country. Hispanics make about like 3.8% of the personnel in dietetics. So it's actually really rare to have three African-American registered dietitians in one location. Considering that ethnic minorities are the ones who are the most affected in this country by nutrition-related chronic diseases, we are the least represented in the dietetics profession. And historically, the dietetics profession has labeled ethnic foods as unhealthy, or has made us feel like they're unhealthy and they aren't very inclusive. That's not necessarily the case. We know that's not the case. So Ebony was founded to provide this like specifically culturally relevant, necessary education to ethnic minorities, so they understand how to make these changes within their own diet and within like their actual access, and to meet people where they're at, whether it's culturally, ethnically, whether it's financially, all of those things. So it's really easy to talk to somebody when somebody looks like you or somebody knows where you're coming from, even if they don't look like you, but they know where you're coming from. It's very different. So that's why Ebony was founded. And Ebony actually is an acronym, and it stands for Health Empowerment Through Behavioral and Nutrition Initiatives. Our executive director is Glenn Providence. I know it says business director, but he's not anymore. He's executive director. And this is a couple pictures of our kitchen. That's actually our main kitchen. It's our test kitchen, our demonstration kitchen when we give classes. That's a picture of the outside of our building, which is actually going to change because we're trying to do a capital campaign fundraising this year to change the facade because our neighborhood is changing. Our neighborhood's going through gentrification, even though they like to pretend that's not what's happening. But we're in the middle of the neighborhood of the community that we serve. So our community is primarily African-American, and it's a historical African-American neighborhood. And we also have a lot of Hispanic individuals who live in that area also, and a lot of elderly and like very young families. So we are trying to improve our building and change with the times so we can still serve our community. We give nutrition education classes, cooking demonstrations, video. We're on Facebook, Instagram, like Rhonda was saying. So please feel free to reach out to us. And anybody feeling tired? I just like to put this out there because it's like, are you feeling tired? I'm tired as I'm clutching a second cup of coffee for today. So today we're going to talk about recharging your nutrition and energizing your nutrition, right? Because who's like not feeling tired? Who can't relate to this picture, right? I can relate to it. I feel like 75% of the day, this is where I'm at. Like I'm living in this feeling tired world. So sometimes I have to like take a step back and figure out, okay, what's going on? What do I need to do? Why am I feeling so tired all the time? So let's talk about some of these common causes of fatigue and tiredness. And I know you guys just had a session and you talked a lot about that in general, but let's talk about some common causes of this. So not enough high quality sleep. Now you could sleep 8-9 hours a day and you could still be tired because the quality of your sleep is not good. And we're going to talk about how diet plays a fact into that and how you can tweak your diet to help improve the quality of your sleep. You could have nutrition deficiencies. It could be stress related, any dietary imbalance. You could be just consuming too much caffeine throughout the day. Inadequate hydration affects your sleep. Our weight, our body weight actually affects our sleep, whether it's related to sleep apnea or not. It doesn't have to be. Certain medical conditions can cause sleep disturbances, drug and alcohol dependence, and it doesn't even have to be a dependence. It can just be like, oh, you maybe like to have a glass or wine or two at night to unwind. And if you're like me, like wine makes you sleepy, so you think, oh, if I need to fall asleep, let me just have a glass of wine and it will help. Well, actually, it may help you fall asleep, but it will interrupt with that REM cycle and you actually will not get a good quality sleep. You won't get that replenishing sleep that you need. If you're a shift worker or you have clients who are shift workers, that is a big one. And I am married to a shift worker. So if you want anything specific, you let me know and I can help you with this. Sedentary lifestyle does not help us sleep because we are just not wasting enough energy. Certain medications, and this is important for us to know also for our clients, but a lot of even like blood pressure, cholesterol medications and diabetes meds can affect our sleep cycle. So make sure that we're paying attention to that. But what I like to point out here is out of all of these are like the common reasons why you might feel fatigued or tired, okay? And out of all of these reasons, look how many of them are directly related to your nutrition, okay? So you have 5 of them out of these 12 that are related directly to nutrition. You can actually say drug and alcohol dependence is related to your nutrition, even certain medical conditions. Stress could be also related to your nutrition. So being tired and nutrition like go hand in hand, right? So some nutrient deficiencies that we know are linked to fatigue. So we know iron is one of them, right? So everybody knows if your iron is low, which happens a lot with younger women, or sometimes even into like our 30s, you can have low iron. But also it happens with older individuals where their iron becomes low, and it's mostly women. So men, it's not likely the case that you have an iron deficiency, and it's also not recommended for men to just supplement with iron because they can't, it's not as necessary for them. This is usually more of a female related problem. If you suspect that you have low iron, make sure that you get your blood work done to confirm before you start taking iron supplements, because once you start taking that, it's kind of not something that you can easily reverse, okay? Vitamin B12 and vitamin D, we know are associated with our energy levels. B12 is specifically important for all our metabolic processes, and vitamin D. Sometimes you will have low iron and your doctor will prescribe like an iron supplement, but your body actually can't just absorb iron by itself. We know that, right? You actually need vitamin B12 and vitamin C and folic acid together to help bring those iron levels up. So I have tons of clients who are like, oh, I'm taking the iron, but it's not helping. It's like, yeah, because you probably also should be taking some extra vitamin C, vitamin B12, and a folic acid. Maybe not the B12 necessarily all the time, but for sure the vitamin C and the folic acid need to be taken in addition to taking iron, because those 3 work together to get absorbed. So it's important that we know how these are all linked with getting tired, but they're all work together. So chances are your problem may not be just the iron, it may be further down the line here. So it's important to get regular blood work done just to make sure. And these are the kind of nutrient deficiencies that I wouldn't just start supplementing with unless you know for a fact that your blood work showed that your iron was low or your B12 was low, because we love buying those little B12 shot thingies they sell at the store. So, but I wouldn't recommend it unless you know for sure it's low, because sometimes this is not the case. There's other things that could be going on. Okay. Dietary imbalances. So dietary imbalances are a little different than nutrient deficiencies. A dietary imbalance can lead to a nutrient deficiency. So dietary imbalances refers to any imbalance that is how our eating is affected. So sometimes we're under eating and we don't even know it. And under eating can lead to calorie and nutrient deficiencies, like we saw in the previous slide, and that can cause some exhaustion and fatigue to set in. Sometimes we're eating enough, but we're not eating the right kinds of food. So maybe you're eating super processed foods, and those foods are low in a lot of these essential micronutrients, and that actually is causing you to be deficient in some of those nutrients. So sometimes, and some of these processed foods are what we consider to be health foods or healthy foods, but they are still a processed food that lack a lot of that nutrition. So it's important to understand that processed foods, whether they're healthy or not, can cause some deficiencies in our systems. So, so under eating, not necessarily that you're not eating enough, but you're maybe not even eating enough of the right calories. You could also not be eating enough, because some of us get stressed out and we don't eat enough. And then when you don't, so that's basically when you don't obtain enough calories and nutrients, like you may not be eating enough protein. Maybe sometimes when we're stressed out and we're in a hurry a lot, we tend to just pick up a lot of carby foods, a lot of heavy carbs foods, because they're quick to eat, easy to digest. They don't affect to interrupt our lives. So sometimes we're eating more carbs than we are eating protein. Your body will break down fat and it'll break down protein. And once it starts breaking down protein, that's actually very fatiguing. Makes you very tired. You see this a lot in older adults, especially. So when you lose body fat and muscle mass, that's what triggers that fatigue, but specifically that muscle mass. And we see that a lot in older people. And by older, I don't mean that much older. Like that actually starts in like our 40s. So it's not like it doesn't have to be like a senior adult. And then, like I said, diets in these ultra high processed food impair our energy levels. Not only are they not full of the micronutrients that we need, they also can deplete our bodies of the needed nutrition, because they can be high in sugar, high in high fructose corn syrup. Even some of these health foods like healthy bars or things like that, you look at the first or second ingredient, it's like brown rice syrup. It's always like a sugar or a sweetener, and we know that these added sugars are just going to contribute to our fatigue. All right, the most important part, hydration. If you are not staying hydrated, I live in Florida, I live in Central Florida. So everybody in Florida between the months of like May to September is walking around dehydrated. So the problem is that first of all, we always confuse hunger with hydration. So sometimes your body is really thirsty, and instead of drinking a glass of water, we like reach for a snack. So it's important that we stay hydrated. Hydration, if your body's mostly water, like your body can't perform biochemical processes properly. Your metabolism can't function properly if it's not hydrated. And I really hate to put a picture of coffee here to make it look like a bad guy, because it's not a bad guy, but we do tend to drink tons of caffeine. So it's not like we're having 1 cup of coffee in the morning and then we're done. Some of us are drinking coffee throughout the day. And if you're drinking sodas or any other caffeinated beverage, even if it's a tea, green tea is very beneficial. For some people, I feel like it stimulates them even more than coffee. So another thing to make sure that you're aware of is your sensitivity to caffeine or your sensitivity to other stimulants. Mild dehydration can actually affect your alertness. So you may have felt that if you've ever been to the beach and you're like super sweaty and you feel the heat start to sink in, you feel tired. That's because you're like sweating out all your body fluid. And you think because you're in the water that actually like happens less, but it doesn't. It actually, you can still become dehydrated. So make sure you're drinking enough fluids to replace any extra fluid that you may be losing due to caffeine, for starters. So if you are a coffee drinker, I always say, as soon as you're done with your cup of coffee, chug a cup of water just to kind of help offset that diuretic effect from caffeine. If you're drinking coffee throughout the day, maybe you want to cut that down. Sometimes we think the caffeine doesn't really affect our sleep or it doesn't affect our quality of sleep because you think, oh, I still fall asleep at night, fine. But you're maybe not getting into that deep quality of sleep where you're waking up refreshed, where your body's actually able to rest or replenish and recover, which is the goal of sleep, right? It's not just to fall asleep. We want to give our body the ability to get into the cycle of recovery and replenishment. So that way you wake up refreshed. If you're not waking up refreshed, even if you slept 7 to 9 hours at night, something's going on there. And maybe you are having too much caffeine. We got all these 0-calorie sodas now. So those have caffeines. So make sure that you're supplementing with added fluid to compensate for that. Drinking too much caffeine, we know, is linked to increased nighttime worryingness or sleeplessness. So it's almost like this nighttime anxiety that sometimes people get, and it decreases your total sleep time and increases daytime sleepiness, which is exactly what you don't want, right? And then coffee and other caffeinated beverages can be beneficial, like I talked about with the green tea. Just make sure you're drinking them in moderation. Things like energy drinks are extremely high in stimulants, and they have added sugar. So they have this like combined stimulating effect that can be really bad for somebody who's already caffeine sensitive, but also they can affect your sleep even if you had them early in the morning. By the time it's nighttime, it's still in you and your body's not able to settle to recover overnight. So make sure that, I would say, to stay away from the energy. Like this is one of those things where I'm like, I don't think you need an energy drink. Do you need it? You don't need it. I don't see why you would ever need one. I don't know if you're like in an emergency situation and you have to fight off ninjas, like maybe you need an energy drink, but like, I don't really see a reason why you won't want to consume that. And also because those drinks are very high and they are very stimulating, you can drink them and be fine. And then one day you can drink them and have tachycardia from it because they are so strong. So like, they're never super safe to drink. I always tell people, like, they're kind of the same as like a diet pill. They're never super safe. You take it and it's fine. And then one day you take it and you end up in the ER with like heart palpitations because they are so stimulating. So just be aware of that. And in reality, it's just going to drain you more of energy. So it's going to give you a little boost, but then it's going to suck out from you more than it ever gave you. That's how I like to think about it. All right, let's talk about body weight and fatigue. Sometimes we fall into this trap of like, we're busy, we're tired, we've been super stressed out. Who's not tired? Who's not stressed? Who doesn't have 7 million things to do every day? Maybe we've been eating bad. Maybe you've put on a few pounds, and like when you've put on like 5 pounds, you start to feel different. You feel sluggish. You all of a sudden feel different. And that's just as soon as you start putting on a few pounds. But obesity in general can increase your fatigue and be a contributor to chronic fatigue. So we know that obesity and being overweight can increase your daytime sleepiness regardless of whether or not you have sleep apnea. I mentioned that before because it directly affects your sleep cycle. People with obesity have a higher risk already of chronic diseases, and we know that. And some of those chronic diseases are already associated with fatigue. Things like depression, type 2 diabetes, and overall, any people who are overweight or obese tend to have poor sleep quality, and sleep restrictions can also lead to more weight gain. So if you're not sleeping very well, for starters, if you're not sleeping well, you're not going to lose weight. And if you're trying to lose weight because you're already maybe have some extra weight on you, that can actually affect your sleep. So it's kind of this vicious cycle of like, okay, well, I need to lose weight, but I can't, but my sleeping is bad, or I have poor quality sleep. But then if I don't lose weight, I can't sleep good. It's kind of it's a vicious cycle. So we have to really kind of get serious about, did I put on some weight? Have I been eating bad? Am I feeling fatigued because I'm carrying an extra few pounds? Because that does happen. It is extremely fatiguing. I had a physical therapist once say to me, for every 1 pound you're overweight, because I had 2 knee surgeries, he said, for every 1 pound you're overweight, you're in your knees, it feels like 5 pounds. So your legs by the end of the day will be like so tired because your body will be just so tired because it's like carrying an extra 5 pounds when really you only put on a couple pounds. So for every 1 pound, it feels like an extra 5 pounds on your knees. So just think about that and how that's affecting your body. So that's why that's so fatiguing to have that extra body weight on us. Okay. All right. So now that we know like that sleep and tiredness and fatigue are super intertwined with nutrition, what can we do so that we can re-energize ourselves? Because it's if we can't self-care and we can't be energized and take care of ourselves through good nutrition, it's so hard for us to take care of anybody else, whether it's our family, whether it's our clients, whether it's our job, whatever it is. So sometimes we have to go through this process of kind of reassessment of what we're doing and what's going on. And anybody can find themselves here. I always say, like, it doesn't matter how good your diet is and your lifestyle, like all it takes is like one or two mini crises and you can find yourself in a spiral out of control. I say that because I just came off a couple of family emergencies that really like threw our family for a loop. And you're like, oh my gosh, like what have I been doing and eating and living like for the past 2 or 3 weeks? And then all of a sudden you realize I feel terrible. Well, it's because you've been eating out of like hospital cafeterias or fast food or whatever. So sometimes you have to take a step back to kind of re-energize yourself. And we're going to talk about some strategies today, nutrition strategies to fight that fatigue. And for us to kind of make sure that we're re-energizing ourselves to be the best we can be. And also to fight off tiredness, because nobody has time to be tired. Okay. So for starters, you need to assess your diet, and you can do that yourself. You can have a colleague do it. You can email me. I can help you do it. And sometimes it's not like whatever assessment you may do with your clients or you may do with anybody else. This could be like it could be the same thing, or it can be like a smaller version of that. Kind of like take a step back and see, what have you been doing? Maybe you want to type it into like a MyFitnessPal. Maybe there's something in your diet that is affecting you. Maybe you have like a slight intolerance to. Maybe it's raising your blood sugar or affecting your glycemic index in a way that you weren't expecting. So make sure that you take the time to take a step back and assess what you're doing. And then you can, number 2, create a plan of action to kind of see how you're going to tackle this, or to kind of restructure your eating or restructure your lifestyle to have better energy and ultimately just better restful sleep. And number 3, you actually have to execute it. I can't tell you how many times like we create plans and we set goals and we have like the vision board, but then we like never actually do anything about it. We just plan on doing it and we went through the exercise, but we don't execute it. So I can't emphasize enough. That's why I put it on there. I write the word execute, because we actually have to do it. It's easy not to do it. It's more fulfilling if you do. Okay. So let's start with assessing your diet. What are you eating that's stealing your energy? Let's think about that. So what are you eating that's robbing you of the little life full energy that we have left in our bodies? Are you eating sugary foods? If you look on the right, we have energy stealing foods. Are you eating a lot of processed grains? It's easy to fall into the like white bread, white pasta all the time, and rice, because they're just easy and they're everywhere. Are you eating foods like breakfast cereals, yogurts, and other foods with added sugar? And I specifically put breakfast cereal and yogurt on here because they are sold to us as health foods, but they are not health foods. They're full of sugar. And sometimes I do this, I'll be like at a hospital. And I'm saying that because I was in a situation where I had a family member in a significant accident and I'm in the hospital. So I grabbed the healthy food, which was like a yogurt, but the yogurt had like 16 grams of sugar. And that's like what I was eating. So, I was in a situation where, you don't really have anything else, but it's either eat that or eat nothing. But it's not something I would go back to now that I can reassess my diet. I don't need to do that, because look at a lot of these yogurts that are sold to us as like healthy foods. They're actually full of sugar, and they're full of a lot of other processed ingredients when you look at the label. I always say, if you're going to do yogurt, make sure you're doing only Greek yogurt, because it's got 3 times more protein. And even the ones that are high sugar, at least they still have more protein in them. But then also just, you can get the plain tub of Greek yogurt and make your own parfaits at home. And it's a totally different product than the regular yogurts in the fridge that are kind of more ready to eat. Breakfast cereals are another food that are full of sugar, and not just from they have added sugar in them, yes, and not that much, but they have tons of carbohydrates in them. The serving is usually like half a cup. The lower sugar cereals, the serving can be like 3/4 of a cup up to a cup, but they're like anywhere from 30 to 45. I've seen even some in the 50s with the grams of carbohydrates per serving. If you mix that with milk, a cup of milk is about 12 grams of carbohydrate. You could be eating anywhere from 40 to like 60 plus grams of carbohydrates in one sitting from one serving of cereal if you stuck to the serving size, which when I was pregnant, I did not stick to the serving size, and that led to some blood sugar issues. But so make sure that you're looking at the serving size of those cereals. And the worst culprits are usually like the brand cereals, what is sold as the healthy cereals on the top shelf. So make sure that if you're eating those things, maybe you just use them as like a topping on a yogurt or something like that. But they're chock full of carbs with very little protein in them. So make sure that we're really kind of checking those labels, because it's not just the added sugar, it's like also total carbohydrate count. It may not be worth it to be eating this so-called health food. Fried foods and fast foods. Have you been eating a lot of fast foods or fried foods? Maybe you've been on the road a lot. Maybe, and that fried foods take a lot out of your metabolism to digest, and they're very fatiguing. And like if you've ever had like a high fat fried food or even a fast food, you feel tired afterwards. It's because it's exhausting. It's full of added sugar. It's fried. It's taxing on your body to digest, and it's definitely exhausting to process, and it robs you of energy. Alcohol. I talked about this before, but you got to think about those couple of glasses of wine at night, or maybe you like to have a cocktail at night. That could be definitely interfering with your sleep cycle. So you may want to reduce that, maybe not do it as often, or maybe if you're the kind of person who does it late at night for sleep, maybe it's something you do right when you get home. You can drink a glass of wine while you cook, if that's what you need to unwind, but maybe not have it as closer as far away from bedtime as possible. And then also, if you're going to have a glass of wine or any cocktail, make sure you do follow that with a full glass of water afterward, to kind of also help offset the diuretics effects that also are in alcohol. So like caffeine, it will dehydrate you also. So make sure that you're doing that with it also. Are you drinking energy drinks, soda, caffeine? We have like a plethora of 0-calorie sodas and energy drinks and nowadays. And these are kind of the things where this is like that one food group where I'm always like, can we just say no to this? Can we just say no to soda, even if it's 0 calorie? The artificial sweeteners in there can have negative effects. And in addition to this caffeine, added stimulation that you don't need if you've already had some coffee in the morning, and it's actually going to rob you of good quality sleep. Juices, bottled smoothies, or even store-bought or even smoothie shop bought smoothies, tons of added sugar. You don't really know what's in there. If you want the smoothie, make a smoothie at home. Make sure you're adding protein to it, that it's not just a carbohydrate bomb, because that's also an energy stealing food. It's just spiking your blood sugar, throwing it back down, and that's very fatiguing for our metabolism. So are you eating some of these foods? Maybe you're eating some of these foods, okay? Maybe you're under eating. Maybe you're not eating enough good quality foods. Maybe you're eating enough calories, but they're more processed foods, because there are so many processed health foods out there that it is easy for us to kind of grab those things first. Maybe, like I said, eating mostly processed foods. Are you overeating? Maybe you got to check your portions again. Sometimes we have to take a step back and realize, you know what? I've actually just been eating like a triple amount of this cereal every day, as opposed to just eating one serving. Okay. So check your portions. Use an app if helpful. Like I said, the MyFitnessPal is one I always kind of go back to, because it's just the one I'm comfortable with. But sometimes I have to take a step back and be like, so what have I been doing? What am I doing? Can I check the MyFitnessPal? Especially when I'm trying different foods or trying new things. So you need to really assess your diet and try to figure out, what is it that you're doing right now that is affecting your energy? And it's probably one of these things. If it's not one of these things, just make sure that you've seen your doctor recently. make sure that you've gotten a lab work done recently, that you don't have something else going on, okay? Or that, are you taking a medication? Look at your medications. Is there a medication that's possibly causing you to be tired or fatigued? So there's also other things that could happen, right? You could have thyroid issues, you could have blood pressure issues. There's a lot of different things that could be going on medically that could cause fatigue or tiredness, low energy. But when it comes to just our nutrition, these are some quick things that we can do to help us gain back our energy. The nice thing about assessing your diet is that once you figured that what it is out, you take that out and you're going to start to see a huge difference. Or you swap that out for a healthier food option and you're going to see a huge difference in your energy quick within a couple of days. So that's what I really do love about the fact that nutrition is related to tiredness, is that we can control it and have an impact on it fairly quickly. Create a plan of action. So we all know about setting goals, right? We all know about the SMART goals, SMART goals. We know how to make them specific and measurable and all that stuff. So maybe you need to set new goals. And I always like to say, I am not above goal setting. I set goals every single week for myself. As a dietitian, as a health educator, I'm constantly setting goals and trying to challenge myself in different ways with my health, with my nutrition. I want to live forever, like the vegan lady on Netflix. But I'm always setting goals because I love to make sure that I'm trying to stay on top of my eating, for starters. But a lot of my goals are physical fitness based because I like to run and I like to stay fit because I've had injuries in the past. I do like to challenge myself physically in different ways. So I set goals every week for myself. And what I love about setting goals, folks, and I know you guys all know this, but what I love is like every day is like a new time to start. It's a new day. Like my son hates me because every Monday I'm like, happy Monday. And he's like, why is it happy Monday? Like, it's always a happy Monday because like a Monday is a refresh. It's a new start. You messed up over the weekend. Who cares? Get over it. Let's get back on track. Let's go back to our goal. Okay. Of we're not going to eat so many processed foods, or I'm not going to drink 6 cups of coffee today. Let's get back on that goal. Because last week was terrible, but we don't care about last week anymore. We're looking to the new day. We got a new week. We have a new day. And that's fine. I ate a whole cheesecake last night. I mean, I didn't, but I'm just saying, like, I could have eaten a whole cheesecake last night. I'm not going to like dwell on that today. I'm going to move on. Because when we dwell on those mistakes or those setbacks, they're not really mistakes. They're just setbacks. And when we dwell on them, we can't move forward. Okay. So it's important that we know that. And it's important for us to go through these setbacks because then we're able to speak to them with our clients. Then we're able to relate to our clients, right? So set new goals, whatever they may be. They can be small goals. They can be big goals. I'm a big fan of the weekly goals. That's where I live. And then have them add up to a larger goal later in the year or months down. Simplify your meals, folks. Every meal, we're going to talk about meal prep, but every meal does not need to be a 5-star meal. Like, sometimes you have to have a tuna salad sandwich for dinner and that's what your family's going to have. Like, it doesn't have to be a gourmet dinner every night. You don't have to have like Instagram worthy dinner every single night. And even if you're going to get takeout, there's ways to make better decisions with takeout, right? So simplify your meals. Guess what? Sometimes it's just a piece of chicken and some sweet potatoes. That's dinner, right? Like a little roasted sweet potato and that's it. You don't need like 30 different ingredients. Okay. So a lot of the times it's just, let's simplify our meals, folks. Let's simplify. Less processed foods, more real food. Like I said, a chicken and some sweet potatoes. What's processed about that? There's nothing processed there. So how can you get back to just that real food, right? And then avoid the health food items. Like I said, these healthy cereals, these healthy bars, these things are actually robbing us of our energy. And I'm very shocked every time I buy a new product and then I enjoy it. Then I'm actually digging to the label and the ingredients. And I'm like, I'm shocked that I've been eating this. Like, it's a fantastic product. And in reality, it's like full of sugar. Yeah, it's like rice syrup or some other sugar or maple syrup or whatever, but it's sugar. So it's important that we're really avoiding kind of these processed health food items. All right. And then let's get back to meal planning. Let's get back to meal prepping if you like to meal prep, but meal planning at its best, it's the number one option to help you stay on track like the number one thing you can do, and I'm sure you share this with your clients, is to be prepared, right? So when you get hungry, when you get ravenous, if you have good food at home ready to go, you're not going to make bad choices, right? Because you're ready to go. You already know what's for dinner. It's like, I always tell people that time when you come home in the evening and everybody's hungry and everybody's looking at you and you're like, and somebody says it, you're already stressed out, you're tired, and somebody makes the comment, what are we having for dinner? Like, that is enough for me to, have like a serious meltdown in front of my family. My neighbors will probably call the police if they hear me yelling because I will lose it if somebody in my house says to me, what are we having for dinner? There's just some days where, like, I don't know, call your grandmother. Maybe your grandmother will make you dinner. I don't, it's like you lose it. But if you have planned your meals, you already know what's for dinner, right? And you don't necessarily have to prep it yet, but you already know what's for dinner because I got the chicken and I got the sweet potato and that's what we're going to have for dinner. And it makes your life a lot easier. It makes that time of day less stressful. So you don't get all revved up and kind of anxious and stressed out right when at the time of day when you should be like winding down and getting ready to go to bed to have a nice restful sleep. So let's talk about meal planning a little bit. So how can we meal plan to fight fatigue and to fight that tiredness? All right. So for starters, meal planning to me is like, I take it week by week. I do Monday through Saturday. Sunday, I usually make it to one of the I'm very fortunate. Both of the grandmothers live within driving distance. So I kind of sneak in there with my family on Sundays and get meals. So let's get lunch and dinner. So that way I don't have to cook on Sundays that much. But when I do cook on Sundays, I will meal prep on those Sundays. But I have a week calendar and I just put in there like what I'm going to cook. And I've done it so much now that I kind of do it more mental, or I do it on my phone. But if you can put like a calendar on your fridge or a calendar somewhere in your kitchen, and you can put in there, Monday, I'm cooking chicken breast and sweet potatoes. Tuesday, I'm cooking X, Y, and Z. Thursday, whatever. And then like Fridays, I always cook the same exact thing because my kids like to help cook. So I make Fridays, we do the same exact thing every Friday. And then the Saturdays, if you have to take your kids to a basketball game or a baseball game on Saturday, and you're going to be out on the road, or you're going to order takeout, write it in there so you don't buy something or buy groceries that you're not going to cook. So then you take your list for the week for breakfast, lunch, dinner, if that's what you're prepping at home, or you're only making dinner at home, however that works, and take that and make your grocery list. Okay. Only buy the items on that grocery list. Do not buy anything else. And I'm sure you've done this with some of your clients, but it's important for us to go through the exercise, because if we can't make the exercise work, it's hard for us to make it work for our clients. And I always tell people, I'm very good at doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in my calendar. And then Thursday, I'm kind of like fumbling with leftovers. And then Fridays, I always cook the same thing. And then Saturdays, I kind of make it work somehow too. So I'm really good at doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then I kind of fumble through the rest of the week. But at least like I'm not stressed out every day. So, and usually I like to play like Thursday by ear, like what's left over from the previous days, that kind of thing. So if you can do that, that's going to help you focus more on, if you can meal plan, you're going to start focusing now more on whole foods, not processed foods. You're going to focus on whole fruits and vegetables. You're going to focus on cooking your food, controlling what's in your food, no added sugars, or very little added sugars if possible. And use that menu to create your grocery list. Now you're going to save money because you're not buying all that processed stuff. Okay. So I like to always talk about money, because honestly, like that's sometimes the only thing that makes us change, is the fact that now you're not spending so much money. And then you can take that menu and meal prep if you want. So if it's Sunday, you're making chicken tomorrow, you have extra time, cook up all the chicken today. And then maybe you have enough chicken for Monday and Tuesday. Monday you do it with sweet potatoes, and Tuesday maybe you have a chicken salad, that kind of thing. So meal planning will help you fight fatigue for sure. You're going to notice a huge difference when you start getting back to cooking and making some of those foods yourselves. Okay. Especially when you're eating whole foods, our bodies just absorb the micronutrients, especially from the foods when they're whole, better than from some of these supplemented foods or foods that are fortified with things, okay? So what are some energy boosting foods that you need to make sure you're incorporating in your weekly menu, okay? Complex carbohydrates are one, and it doesn't have to be like, I always do like for bread, I always say do wheat bread. We eat a ton of rice in my house, and I will say about like 25% of the time it's actually brown rice. The rest of the time it's white rice. I'm Caribbean, like I can't ever not eat white rice. I'm sorry. But I do control the portions when I have white rice, just so you guys know. I make sure that's not a large portion. I make sure I eat a really good protein source with that. High protein, biological value protein source with that, because I really want to make sure that I'm not just shooting up my blood sugar, and I won't have any other carbohydrate, like starchy carb with it, just so that way it's not like an added shot of something else that's low glycemic. You know, I want to make sure that I'm offsetting that with good protein sources. So complex carbs, oatmeals, things like that. Oatmeal is another thing we have to worry about, because a lot of us get like these instant oatmeals, whether they're the healthier versions or not, for breakfast. And we're going to talk about that in one of the next slides. But complex carbs are really going to help you with energy. And a lot of us aren't eating enough carbs, which is probably why you're feeling fatigued, because maybe you're keto, or maybe you're high, or maybe you're on the keto or the high protein diet. I don't know why I can't think of it right now. So just make sure that you are eating some carbs. Maybe you just need to incorporate a little bit of carb in there, a little complex carb, not a lot, to help you with your energy levels. So some people can be low carb for a long time and be fine, but that doesn't work for everybody, okay? And also with things with keto and with intermittent fasting, you may lose more or less the same amount of weight if you were just controlling your portions. You lose about the same amount of weight over time on the few kind of longitudinal studies they've done on them. And then in reality, at the end of it though, the difference is that people who are keto and who are intermittent fasting actually lose muscle mass, more muscle mass than people who do just portion control. They tend to lose more body fat than muscle mass, whereas that intermittent fasting and the keto actually makes you lose muscle mass. And remember, muscle mass keeps you young. Muscle is what keeps you young, and it's what we're trying to preserve. And it can be fatiguing when you burn muscle mass on your body. So complex carbs, whole fruits and vegetables, guys, whole fruits and vegetables. It can be frozen, but especially things like dark leafy greens, kales, spinach. Throw them in a smoothie if you want, throw them in an omelet, inside a soup, or inside some chili in a stew if you get the frozen kinds. But whole fruits and vegetables are your friend to make sure that you feel a lot better and that your energy's up. Beans are like beans are the number one food. Beans are the longevity food. Eat half a cup of beans a day and you will live 3 to 4 years longer. That's what studies say. So beans, especially lentils, are really high in iron. And for some reason, I noticed that from lentils, like I've noticed it because I've suffered from anemia when I was younger, that if I ate lentils, I would immediately get an energy boost and I'd be good to go for days. Or you could eat a T-bone steak and have the same effect. But for the sake of not eating like a T-bone steak, you could have beans because it's way cheaper, affordable, and easier to cook. But lentils, I noticed, are really good. And the nice thing about lentils is that you can buy dry lentils and there's no processing. You can just make lentil soup out of them very easily and quickly. Other dry beans, you got to soak them, or you could just buy canned beans also. But beans are a longevity food. I love to keep beans. I cook beans excessively in my house. And then I also just like to keep dry beans mostly, but I keep canned beans around to throw on top of salads, especially black beans are really good for energy levels. Black beans, especially white navy beans, those two are really kind of like the go-tos. Cannellini beans are also really good for things like tossing into a salad last minute, making something like a pasta salad out of it, or tacos, that kind of thing, are really good. So black beans, garbanzo beans, cannellini beans. I like to keep cans of those around because they're easy to make a meal out of, okay? Especially if you didn't defrost chicken or you don't have something else ready to go. You can easily make a fully nutritious meal out of beans, okay? Lean proteins, and I'll show you some options in a minute. Lean proteins, things like chicken breast, fish, those are going to be easier for our bodies to digest and easier for our bodies to absorb. Egg is actually a really good protein also source in this case that helps with your energy levels. And for my friends who are non-meat eating, things like quinoa, chia seeds, things like tofu, those are all really good sources of protein that are going to help with your energy levels. Sometimes you may, if you are only plant-based eating, or if you are vegetarian or vegan and you're suffering with energy levels, just make sure that your B12 and all that's good to go. If not, make sure you're eating nutritional yeast. But if you still have issues, then we can find some solutions for that. And you can email me if you have a question about that, because that requires some further tweaking. And sometimes people who are vegan, I will say, or vegetarian, you're not eating enough. You're not eating enough food, because when you go plant-based eating, the volume of food actually is more significant. You need to eat more food. Healthy fats are super energy boosting foods. So make sure you're eating things like nuts, seeds, avocado, olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. Make sure you're storing all your fats in the refrigerator and or freezer. Walnuts are incredibly energy boosting, and you will feel it right away. Walnuts are my late night food, guys. So if I'm up late working on something, I'll grab, and your blood sugar starts to drop, I'll grab a handful of walnuts from the freezer, and that's like my go-to night snack, and I feel better, and I can keep going for hours, which is exactly what you shouldn't do. You should go to sleep, but say as I do, not as I say, or vice versa, whatever. But things like chia seeds, I feel like are very underutilized. So chia seeds are high in healthy fats. They're super high in protein. They're a complete protein, just like quinoa. You can turn them into a pudding, or you can just use them on top of yogurt, or use them on top as a topping on oatmeal, and you've increased your protein content. They have like no flavor. You can get little kids to eat them. So chia seeds, I just feel like are super underutilized. Pumpkin seeds are another one. I like to put dark chocolate in here because dark chocolate is full of antioxidants. It is energy boosting, especially because of all of the micronutrients in there, but it also is just kind of like that feel good energy boosting. Also peppermint tea, which has no caffeine in it. If you do find yourself lagging at the end of the day or in the middle of the afternoon, a little peppermint tea actually helps you concentrate. Even if you don't drink it, if you just brew it and leave it like next to your laptop while you're working, smelling the peppermint actually increases your ability to concentrate and focus. And we cannot talk about energy boosting foods without talking about water. Drink your water, eat some watermelon, anything, but make sure you are getting enough water. Okay. Chances are you're not. Most of us are not. I know I don't. And let's talk about energizing our breakfast. So before, I don't want to run out of time, I want to get through all the food. So energize your breakfast. This is a picture of a power oatmeal. Oatmeal is one of the number one culprits of just like carbohydrates in the morning and nothing else. Okay. So like, it's the healthy food that everybody wants to go to. Okay. All right. I'm going to start eating healthy. And my doctor said I have to start eating healthy, or my cholesterol was high. I'm going to start having oatmeal. Oatmeal is like not a full, complete breakfast, right? It's like just your carbohydrate portion, which means you should only be having like half a cup of it. And then what else are you gonna eat with that to sustain you for the next 4 to 5 hours by the time it's lunchtime, right? So make sure you are combining your oatmeal with some protein. So in this case, if you look closely to the oatmeal, there's actually quinoa in there. So this is like half quinoa, half rolled oats, or half oats. I think this was steel cut, but it's half oatmeal, half quinoa. You cook the two together. Okay. So you just cook them together and make like a porridge. And then on top, there's chia seeds for protein. So you're already getting tons of protein from the quinoa, right? You can make this all quinoa if you wanted to. You don't have to combine the two. It's just a way to get that nice complex carb in there. But if you're more, keto, or maybe you're more just high protein, you could omit the carbohydrate altogether if you wanted to, because there is fruit on there also. So I like you top it with some chia seeds, that's added protein. Pumpkin seeds, added protein. Chia seeds and pumpkin seeds, magnesium, potassium, all of those good micronutrients, minerals we need for our energy metabolism to function. Walnuts, healthy fat, not only just healthy fat, more protein. This is like the power breakfast. If you eat this, and I cook it in water and then I just top it with a little of whatever type of milk you like when I serve it, and then that's it. But there's blackberries on this. You don't have to put fruit on here if you don't want to, but you can. But this is a super powerful breakfast meal. And you can batch cook it ahead of time. So you can make a ton of it. Let's say you're cooking it Monday morning, make extra, and then you have enough to go for the rest of the week. Or make a ton on Sunday and you have the rest enough to go for the rest of the week. You just can scoop it out and pre-portion it and then just heat it up as you need it in the microwave. Or you can just freeze it if you like, also pre-portion. It works both ways. I've done it both ways. I make huge batches of this when I'm going to go out of town for work or conferences, and my husband heats it up for all the kids because they love it. Not all the kids, it's 2 kids. I made it sound like I had 10 kids. No, 2 kids. Okay. How do we energize our lunch? All right. And just so you guys know, these are pictures of real food that we make or that our clients make, because I like to show what is possible and doable. Okay. So on the top here, now the bottom one is not, the bottom one of this salad is not, that's from the internet. It's not, but the top one is from our office. And this is actually just like a chicken salad. You see chicken salad on the top there. And then the rest of it is just salad that we've tossed a grain into. So we tossed farro into this salad. And I hate salads. Just so you guys know, like a green salad, I don't know about the rest of you, but for me, it's very not satisfying. It's not going to hold me off for another meal. It's going to keep me hungry. I'm not going to be full and last 4 or 5 hours. So in order to make your meals heartier, more nutritious, more satisfying, boost your energy, I always say mix in, like the bottom one has quinoa, mix in some quinoa, mix in some brown rice. Leftover brown rice is great in salads. It absorbs the dressing really nicely. Mix in a whole grain in there. I like to buy the farro. They sell farro now that cooks in like 10 minutes and it's really good. So I batch cook some grain, whether it's quinoa, whatever, farro, rice, or maybe I have rice left over. Maybe you have that. And then I just put that on top of a bed of baby spinach, kale, whatever it is. And then you put your protein on that. And then you can add things to that like avocado, nuts. You can use a nice vinegar-based dressing. And I mean more vinegar than oil, just for like the sake of calorie counting. And then a Greek yogurt-based dressing, which I really like because that's added protein. That's good probiotics in our system for our gut health, which we talked about in the session before. So and it gives you kind of like that creamy satisfaction of a salad. So think about adding these whole grains into your salad and power up that salad. Now you're going from just a regular old boring salad that just you're trying to eat to be healthy to a energizing lunch option, an energizing salad that's going to keep you full. It's going to give you energy. Maybe you'll go work out after work. Who knows? Okay. Dinner, guys, the biggest thing I talk always about dinner is simplify your dinner. Okay. Like, yes, we made a fantastic salad for lunch. We made a fantastic oatmeal for breakfast, but dinner, just keep it simple. This is a picture of just like a piece of salmon. On top is like some sauteed veggies. I think there was spinach in this and then like some frozen peas and corn. Okay. Because sometimes it doesn't have to be 10, 20 ingredients. All right. Like, here, just keep it simple. A lean protein with a veggie and a complex carb. You could leave the carb out if you've had enough carbs during the day. But I also like to keep it simple at night, not just from a easy to cook perspective, but also from a small amount of ingredients. Keep the ingredients small. The least complicated the meal, the easier it'll be on your body. Think about it that way. So a piece of fish with just some veggies, your body will easily digest that and it'll be settled and ready to rest and replenish overnight. When we eat heavy meals with a lot of sauces or a lot of ingredients or a lot of different things, it can be overwhelming for our digestive system. And that can actually take a long time to digest. And your body may actually still be digesting at night as opposed to replenishing and resting and recovering at night. So your sleep cycle is interrupted and you don't wake up rested. So make sure that you're not eating close to bedtime, at least 2 hours, we say. More if you can. Some people can go 3 hours before going to bed. I can't really. I can go 3 hours, but I can't go more than that. I wake up and my blood sugar will be way too low, especially because I run in the mornings. So that's probably why. But here are some really easy dinner options. Roasted chicken with sweet potatoes, which I've mentioned numerous times. A quick chicken or tofu stir fry. Throw it on some rice, brown rice, particularly if you are going to go with the green, with a starchy carb at night. Try at least sometimes to make it like a brown rice or a whole grain. Spaghetti and meatballs. Just have spaghetti and meatballs with a side salad. Okay. Make sure you're focusing on those portions though. Okay. Doesn't have to be. And one trick to do with anything that's pasta related, like the spaghetti and meatballs, is make half of the noodles, the zoodles. Do half of them pasta and half zucchini noodles, and you'll notice a huge difference in how your body feels after having that bowl of spaghetti and meatballs. And that's easy to take. Like as soon as the noodles are done, everything's done, you just throw some zoodles in there, mix it in. It doesn't have to cook long. It just needs to warm through. Vegetarian chili, like a nice bean chili, throw in some quinoa into that, or throw in some bulgur, throw in farro, throw in one of those nice hearty whole ancient grains. And that's a huge boost to your energy. You're going to feel great the next day. The beans and that nice grain, you're going to feel great for a few days. Trust me, like there's nothing that's more energizing than a bean chili, because those beans, like the effect that they have on your iron and your hemoglobin, it like lasts for days. Greek yogurt topped with fruit and nuts and seeds. That could be your dinner. Like I said, they don't have to be spectacular dinners. And that's something that your body can process fairly easily and quickly. And then you'll be ready to go. Your digestive system will be ready to sleep and be well rested and recovered in the morning. Tuna salad on whole wheat. I'm telling you, we don't need to have spectacular meals every night. They just need to be nourishing. Okay. So we want nourishing meals to re-energize, nourishing and simple. That's what the key is for dinner time. Okay. And then number 3, make sure we execute. So put our plan to action. Did you create new SMART goals? Did you make a new weekly meal plan? Are you going to create your grocery list based off that? Do you want to prep the meals ahead of time? Is that what you need to do? Or do you think you can cook them every night if you're keeping them simple? So go ahead and put your plan to action. Make sure everybody in your household knows or somebody knows that can support you. And don't sweat the setbacks. Okay. We all have setbacks. This is like, March has been like the month of setbacks for me. So, and for me, it's very hard for us to have setbacks, because we know that we like to be healthy. We lead this healthy lifestyles, right? We are like the health educators. People come to us to tell them how to eat, be healthy. But guess what? We're human and we have setbacks. And yes, sometimes we can't help it as much as we like to help, as much as I love to control my schedule. Sometimes things happen and God has a sense of humor and it derails all your plans. And so now you have to figure out a way to just move on. Don't look back. And now maybe you're faced with a new normal, or maybe you just have to now reassess and start all over again. And that's fine. Don't sweat it. Don't look back. Things happen and we just keep going. Here's my references. And does anybody have any questions? I'm going to stop share real quick.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm looking in the chat for you right now. There is a question, why do they need to be in the fridge or freezer? I think this was a question that came up from Kelly while you were talking about good fats.
Yeah. So the healthy fats go rancid very quickly because they have like a high content of vitamin E and other antioxidants, and those actually go bad pretty fast. So things like olive oil, you don't want to buy those in like the big can containers. If you do, freeze them, keep one of those like cute little oil dispensers next to your stove and just keep enough in there for you to use for a couple days at a time, and then put the rest in the freezer and then portion it out as you're using it. Because if not, like that nice, all of the good properties in there are going to go rancid. It's going to taste slightly different. Not everybody can tell the taste difference, but you're going to lose a lot of that. The same goes with nuts. The walnuts are like the ones you can taste the rancidity with the most, which is why a lot of people say they don't like walnuts. And it's because they've actually tasted walnuts that are not fully fresh. So make sure that if you're buying nuts, whole nuts, raw nuts, any kind of nut, that you're sticking them in the freezer. When you pull them out by the handful, they defrost in like 10 seconds, 15 seconds. They're fully room temperature. So don't be afraid to store them in there, because they're not gonna be a difficult product to defrost. But it's for the same reasons, that fat and all the good nutrients in there actually go rancid very fast.
Great, thank you. Are you going to share your PowerPoint with us? Can we share that?
I can share it. Yes.
Yes, great. We'll send that out, and it probably will be posted on the website as well. We'll send that out. Teresa has a question. She found that quinoa is a great, okay, she just has a comment. And our field reps are in the room. Any benefit questions, they can direct message you and give you that information. Thank you so much again. I love Hebni Nutrition. Hopefully I can get Renice or Fabiola or you back again for our summer wellness, our winter wellness series, and you can I love the food preservation.
Yeah, and anybody can join that, because we do it virtually too. We have people in person, so if anybody wants to join our food preservation, I think we have 2 more classes later this month, the week of April 15th. So join them. We talk. One of them is about freezing, and then the other class I think is going to be about pickling. So.
Oh, I need to join that class. Is that going to be virtual?
Virtual, yeah.
Yeah, I was at one of the local markets and I noticed there are pickled asparagus and pickled green beans.
Yeah.
But the price to me seemed like a little bit too much. So I'm gonna do my own.
Yeah.
I started a garden and I'm growing green beans and I want to pickle them.
Yeah. And I'm going to show you actually, because I actually have it from the previous meeting I was at. We made like our own homemade like jardinera, like a lower sodium version. And so I teach people how to pickle in a way that is like okay for most like suburban or urban homes, because nobody has like a pickling, like we can't all of that. So we teach like a way for you to be able to do that at home. And like this is something you can just grab in your fridge, toss with some pasta, and you got like a veggie pasta salad.
Wow.
So it's really beneficial to do. You don't have to have big mounds of produce to do it, but if you are, because you're growing your own stuff now, which a lot of people are, because food prices are ridiculous, then this is a great class.
Excellent. Somebody said, I'm so hungry now. Excellent. Well, thank you again, everybody. Give Celines a hand.